I got my Switch 2 on Friday. 6 days later, I'm back in Wind Waker, sailing an ocean I've crossed more times than I can count on hardware that finally does the game justice. I'm not going to pretend that that doesn't still get me, even after all these years. But before we get into it, I'm Black Faye. Welcome to my atelier where cozy tech and coily hair both belong. Today's take is a simple one. My honest first impressions of the Switch 2 from someone who's been doing this a long time and has zero interest in turning a video game console into a referendum on anything. Here's where I actually am 4 days in. The first thing I did was open up the Nintendo Switch Online library and fire up Wind Waker, and it even looks better than I remember it looking back in 2002, which really shouldn't be possible for a game that's already old enough to vote, especially for a game that I know almost entirely by heart. The cel shaded graphics hold up in a way that I really wasn't expecting, but I'm glad for it. The water looks lived in instead of a flat blue plane with sparkles on it. Even some of the little things, like how quickly this machine boots up versus the Switch 1, just it gives me Switch energy, but with far more polish than the original 2017 model. Alongside nostalgia and Wind Waker, I've been really deep into, of course, the cozy game of cozy games on here, Pokemon Poptopia. I have really been enjoying this game. I wasn't sure about it at first because when people said Animal Crossing meets Pokemon meets a touch of Stardew Valley, I kind of felt like it was genre mashing and didn't make as much sense as hearing someone say, oh, it's a Metroidvania or oh, it's a Souls like. But I get it. Pokemon Pocopia has that kind of calm, addicting energy that's really nice to get when you're playing a game and you just want to have some fun and you don't need to worry about hit points or bosses or enemies. You're just a cozy little guy building cozy little guy things because that's what you want to do. You're trying to figure out how to bring back the humans and do cute things alongside with it. This game is brand new territory for me because when it was originally proposed, it sounded kind of like a game that my son would like versus something that I would want. But I've been pleasantly surprised with how much fun Pocopia is. So for me, the Nintendo Switch 2 is very much the best of both worlds, a combination of old friends and new surprises that's really nice to have, and I'm just vibing with it. I've been playing Nintendo games since I was 3 years old. This year, I turned 40 in May. That's 37 years of dedication to a single hobby. To say I like video games is to say that there's light moisture in the air during a monsoon and buying pretty much whatever Nintendo put out. I've owned nearly every mainline Nintendo console, handheld, and home entertainment system since then. We would have gotten a Virtual Boy, but my mom was convinced that it was going to destroy our vision and make us absolutely blind. I actually sat in line for the original Wii and Wii U in front of our local Best Buy when they were coming out. And to be honest, I did just list a bunch of consoles, but this isn't me flexing some massive game catalog, considering I don't even have most of those consoles anymore. I only have my Switch 1 and my Switch 2 for Nintendo consoles. But I'm just talking about what 4 decades of loyalty to something looks like, and that's what it looks like with me and gaming, especially with Nintendo. I will admit, I get this little tinge of excitement almost hearing the Zelda da 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 when I open up a new Nintendo console. It's a feeling of coming back to something and coming home to something that you never really leave, but you get to see in different ways every time. And let's be honest, a lot of things lose their shine as you grow up, and that's happened for me too. But one thing that hasn't is the first time I turn on a Nintendo system when I hear the opening orchestra for a Zelda game, these sorts of feelings just bring me back to being a little kid, holding on to the controller and getting ready for an epic adventure. Although, I'm looking at you, Nintendo 64, you probably caused my carpal tunnel. I came to PC gaming a little bit later. I might have been 7 or 8 years old the first time I powered up a PC game, but just like with my first time holding an NES controller, it was love at first bite. And I don't just like playing them, I've also built my own rig. Behind me on the floor is Rave. I've had her for nearly 8 years and we've been through so much together. I've got a full library on Steam that almost dwarfs my Nintendo library right now. I even have a Steam Deck. In my mind, the two don't actually compete in a way where I have to pick one or the other. I don't see any of these things competing for my attention because they all get it in different ways. One thing before I keep going, before anybody misreads anything, I am not making this video to argue about whether or not the Switch 2 is a real gamer's console, or whether women or black people belong in the gaming sphere, or whatever counts as woke to gaming Discord this week. I do not care about that conversation, and I am not having it here. Fair warning. I'm a black woman who plays video games, and I've learned I cannot opt out of that fact being read as some sort of big statement, political or otherwise, simply by ignoring the conversation. So instead of pretending that it's not true, I would rather say it once, plainly, and get back on whatever console I'm enjoying right now. My gaming isn't some form of activism. I'm not calling people out when I decide to play South of Midnight over Super Mario Odyssey. South of Midnight is awesome, by the way. This is about me talking about a new game system I like because I've been playing video games since the final boss of my life was potty training and learning how to tie my shoes. And if that's too much for somebody, then we both know that their reaction has absolutely nothing to do with the consoles. Now, back to the Switch 2. Load times are faster, and docked mode finally feels like it gives you something more instead of just a compromise so that you can play the same games on a big screen in okay resolution. The new magnetic Joy-Cons, like, oh my gosh, let me show you. Absolute cinema. And the first time you don't have to wrestle with a stuck rail on your Switch 2, oh my goodness gracious. Handheld feels pretty good in my hands, which matters to me a lot more at 40 than it did at 14. Although I am still looking at a grip case for it. Belkin, sponsor me, please. Because it does still suffer from flat handheld syndrome. Because my hands remember every console that made them ache after an hour. One of the things that's really nice about consoles like the Switch 2 is that I don't have to play in menus. Everything is already set up. All I have to do is turn it on, sit back, relax, and enjoy. And that simplicity is something I don't take for granted anymore. Okay, I have to say something else. It's not here where I can grab it really quickly, but I also own a Steam Deck LCD. They fit for what you want. My personal opinion, the Steam Deck is like having access to this massive, beautiful library. My Nintendo consoles, like my Switch 2, I kind of look at those more like a playground. There's a set number of things. I know what they are. I know what I like. And I know the first thing I'm going for are the big swings, aka the Zelda games. Just a gamer in her 40s with a brand new Nintendo console, looking forward to riding across the great sea with the King of Red Lions once again. This channel runs on chapters, not algorithms. So if you want to be here for the next one, subscribing is the move. And if today's video gave you something worth keeping, tap the like. It helps the Artelier find the right people, not just more of them. I'll catch you in the next chapter. Poptopia calls. My mom was convinced that the virtual boy was going to destroy our vision, so we never got one.